This week's show is all about one of the ocean's apex predators. They can grow to well over 1,000 pounds and use their powerful bill to devastate their prey. Get ready because it's Marlin time here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, fellow Americans. And joining me once again this week is Captain Jim Ross from our Real Legends Central East region. Jim, are you ready to take on this 4th of July weekend with some Marlin talk? I think we got it.
I'm dressed.
We didn't even talk about this.
We are dressed for the occasion.
Yes, we are. All right. Well, if there's any species Dave is prepared and excited to talk about, it's definitely Marlin, and he's at the CCA workbench.
Yes.
Prepared and ready to go, and you're in red, white, and blue too. Proud of you.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk a little bit about the Marlins. I've seen a few, so we're going to talk about them.
I bet you have, and I bet you are. All right, well, you know what? I think we are going to start off our first Marlin talk in the... What region is that? Panhandle region.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mr. Pat Deneen, talk to us about Marlin.
Hey, Brie, I tell you what, the Panhandle region does have some good marlin fishing. In fact, me and Dave have gone back and forth for years about, I believe that we probably have the best blue marlin fishing in the state. We have good blue marlin and white marlin fishing. Blues are caught year-round with the best fishing May through October, while the best white marlin fishing is typically late summer and into the fall, although the sailfish and white marlins are starting to show up right now in good numbers, so it might be a little bit earlier. Currently, marlin fishing and blue water fishing in general is really good. This past weekend, 29 blue marlin were released in the Emerald Coast Billfish Classic. Some big meat fish were caught, including a 59-pound dolphin, 190-pound tuna. So the offshore, the fishing is great. Crews targeting blue marlin and racking up the numbers are typically live bait fishing. The floating, oil rigs 100 miles plus to the southwest. The Okaloosa pads, the steps, and the spur. Also great areas to find blue marlin and white marlin. And there's a photo sent in by Captain Chase Blake from the Team Supreme out of Destin. He sent me this photo of a really cool rod tip tight with a mad blue marlin on the other end. So that's a pretty neat angle on a very mean offshore fish.
Still dying to see that in person. Beautiful photo.
Just getting ready to blaze.
Oh, you're going to dig it when you do, Bree. Staying offshore, red snappers continue to be the primary focus. Anywhere from Mexico Beach to Pensacola, the hard bottom areas and wrecks are producing plenty of red snappers and a lot of mango snapper as well. On the deeper spots, a nose hook live bait on a slip sinker rig with 5 or 6 feet of 50 to 60 pound leader is the way to go. On the shallower spots, and especially the spots closer to the inlets, in other words, the more pressured spots, lighten up the leader and the lead, or even just free line a dead bait or a live bait. Chumming with chums, we're going to bring the snappers up in the water column. They will often come right to the surface to eat. And I've got a photo that was sent in from Alex Short. He's the mate on the Semper fish out of Destin, of a soon-to-be-on-the-wall 13-pound snapper caught by Golden Icard from Billings, Montana. And that little fella was pretty stoked with that fish right there, and it's a very nice red snapper.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, good eating. Moving inshore, that's probably going to be the only red snapper on the wall in Montana, by the way. But moving inshore, hearing good reports of redfish throughout the region with some big speckled trout thrown in as well. Either lure fishing and bait fishing along the natural shoreline areas, areas where you can drift or use your trolling motor to cover some ground. Lures are the way to go. Prospect cast up ahead of your direction of travel with baits like a spoon, a bass assassin on a jig head, or a topwater lure. And this is also a perfect scenario for just covering some ground. On the docks and deeper areas where you're going to be camping for a bit, go with the live baits, either free-lined or weighted under a cork. Finger mullets, croakers, menhaden, pilchers, all great baits. And there's a lot of the bay redfish right now are in the upper slot size. Moving inshore, or staying inshore actually, the tarpon fishing has really been getting good. The water's cleaned up a lot from all the weather we had last week, and the tarpon fishing's back on track. Anywhere along the beaches from Floribama to Apalachicola, you're going to find some tarpon swimming along to the west. The key to getting a bite is to let them come to you. Do not chase the fish. You're not going to get the bite. Let them come to you. It's also, if you're a pier fisherman, this is a great time. You stand on the east side of any of the Gulf side piers with a swim bait tied to your rod. There's a photo of a tarpon we caught the other day with a fella in the witness protection program. His wife, Angela, did an awesome job bringing this one to both sides.
We've all been there.
Yes, we have. Well, thanks, Pat. That was a fantastic report. And way to kick us off tonight. We're going to take your blue water outrigger hotspots for the Panhandle region from here. Captain Pat Deneen says you got to do the little Panama City, West Bay, and North Bay. It's been really good for redfish and big trout. Cast those topwater baits and focus on shorelines with a lot of mullet. And then offshore, get your mango and red snapper in 120 to 150 feet of water, and then slip on out and hit that 300 to 600 foot depth, trolling for for dolphin and wahoo with your ballyhoos.
Sounds good to me. All right,
Yeah.
next up is our firecracker of a captain, Jimbo Thomas in the Dynapack Southeast region, where the Marlin come to us and definitely not the other way around. Go for it, Jimbo.
That's right, Bree, and hello, Jim and Dave. You know, we catch a lot more marlin here in the Southeast region if we actually fish for the stupid things. Now, most of the marlin are hooked while fishing for mahi or other species on tackle that's usually a lot too light to handle a 200-pound plus fish. Now, when we do target marlin, the lightest tackle that I would use is 50-pound tests, even 80-pound. I like to catch them. Now, most of them are caught on trolled rig baits or lures out in the blue water in depths of 1,200 feet or more. And although it's not unheard of to find them in shallower water, we do catch them on the kite or hook them on the kite at least. Now, with both baits and lures, use a heavy leader, 250 to 300-pound mono leader, and hooks to match your bait or lures, 9.0 to 12.0 hooks, depending on the size of those baits. You want to troll anywhere from 6 to 10 knots, with the faster speeds being with the lures. Now, there's two types of fish in the ocean. You got marlin and marlin food. And when you're at the top of that food chain, you eat whatever you can get your lips on. So it's not uncommon for a marlin to come up in a school of bonita or dolphin. So it's always a good idea to keep a big rod with the right size leader and hook standing by for when one does actually show up. And this is the time of the year when most blue marlin are hooked, mainly because of the amount of baits that are being fished offshore, mainly in search of mahi, but they can be found year-round. And then there's also the occasional white marlin caught along the edge of the Gulf Stream on live baits that are intended for sailfish. Now, the white marlin average 60 to 80 pounds, and they can be handled on standard sailfish tackle. But when a blue marlin grabs that lighter tackle, pretty much the only thing you see is his tail as he greyhounds away. Now, in the past few weeks, we're having a fair amount of marlin seen and raised, and even a couple of them caught and released. Got a photo here. This is a nice blue marlin caught by Captain Christian Sanchez aboard the boat Amagos, and he was fishing off Miami. Caught it on a lure, apparently, by that pitcher. So nice going there. But now, for real fishing here, nighttime snapper has been excellent throughout the region, especially for mangroves. There's also been some muttons and yellowtails mixed in. And with all this heat we've got, getting out in the evening's not a bad idea. Now, the snapper have been hanging on the outside reef in 40 to 80 feet of water. They're being caught on dead, cut sardines, silver sides, and pilchards. You want to fish them on the bottom with a knocker rig. Use 20 to 30-pound leader and 1.0 to 3.0 circle hooks. Now, Captain Dave Aflalo, aboard the Reward Party boat out of Miami, he's been fishing along the outside reef line of Government Cut, been finding mangroves from 2 to 6 pounds. And he says some of the nights the best bite's been after 8, 9, even 10 o'clock at night. So if they don't bite right away, don't get discouraged. Now, also, there's been some pilchards and goggle eyes coming up in the lights. You could drop down an R&R speaky, put those liveys or even those fresh cut baits down for bait. And the larger fish have been on those fresh liveys. But now the sharks have been a real problem, eating a lot of your fish, though, so you got to reel fast. Got another photo here. This is Tatiana Aflalo and Demarius Vasquez with some nice mangroves caught aboard the party boat Reward out of Miami earlier in the week. They've been doing that every night, so it's a good way to get some fish. Now, moving inshore, the flats of the south end of the region, they've been seeing some really good permit fishing. You want to fish both the inside and outside flats from Soldier's Key, South Angelfish Creek, and look for both cruising and tailing permit. You want to fish on flats with good moving water on both the incoming and outgoing tide. Look for hard bottom flats as well, stuff that has a lot of life. That's where those permits are going to be. A small live crab placed in their path, that's going to get you a bite, or you can try placing a crab pattern fly in front of them. And if it's overcast, look for those permit over some light-colored bottom, or wait for that sun to come up to get some good visibility. And they've been anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds, so nice permit. Got another photo here. This is John traveling with a nice permit that he caught, and he was fishing for tarpon with live crab, but the permit found his live crab, so that's a nice catch. Now, the tarpon action has been really good throughout the whole region. All of the inlets and their adjacent beaches have been active with tarpon. In the north end of the region, a live mullet's preferred bait. To the south, a live crab has been the best bait. Now, the tide isn't much of a factor when fishing those inlets as long as that water is moving. Then also, all of the bridges of the ICW have been holding tarpon. They've been feeding on both live crabs, live baits, and artificials. The bridges have been best fishing at night on those shadow lines on the outgoing tide. There's also been some tarpon migrating on the ocean side. You can target these fish on flies, artificials, and plastic swim baits. And with the artificials, you want to try and get your bait right on that tarpon's nose. And a lot of these fish have been up to 100 pounds or better.
That's a fantastic report, Jimbo, and I will take your hot spots for the southeast region from here. Jimbo says, inshore, drift live crabs off the beaches and through the inlets for permit, plus late afternoon tarpon and evening tarpon. And then offshore, jump on a party boat and go out for an evening snapper bite. You know, those are some fantastic snapper that those ladies caught.
Yeah, they said they were going every night too.
So you might if they're biting like that, you might as well go.
Let's go. Party boat, here we come. All right, next up, we're reporting from the Real Legends Central East region, from right here in our studios, actually. But first, we're in for a treat from Mr. Marlin himself at the TCA workbench, jonesing for some Academy sports and outdoors rigs and techniques. How's that set up, Dave?
That's very good.
Thanks.
Very good. We're going to dispel some myths and rumors about marlin fishing.
Ooh,
and
myths and rumors.
Yeah,
all right.
Dispel. We're not going to be inundated with them.
Ooh.
Myths.
Okay.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. SiriusXM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport. Legendary performance. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Your time on the water is precious. You return season after season to make unforgettable memories, fight a few fish, reconnect with friends, and recenter yourself. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters stay with Yamaha for the long run, for life. They know reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water. From snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep, Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it, catch more fish.
Beautiful fish.
We're grilling tonight, baby.
Gentle, gentle. Hold on, hold on.
I'll take a double. I'll take a double.
What do you say?
Nice. Hey, hey, hey.
Well, we're at the CCA Workbench for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques section. And I tell you what, Dave, marlin fishing is pretty specialized if you're going to specifically target them.
Yeah, you pretty much, if you really want to catch them, you got to target them, because if you go out there with not the right kind of gear, you might not make it.
You're going to end up stripped. That's the bottom line.
There are certain things you can do, though, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. You know, the ocean is a big empty, and all these marlin, he's a big predator, and he's got great big eyeballs, and just like all those pelagic fishes, he fishes by sight. Everything, you know, he wants to see it, and then he goes and eats it. He's not sniffing anything, and he really doesn't use his bill that much. A blue marlin, he's not the guy who comes up and whacks stuff.
He's not like a sailfish. He just comes up and goes.
Even sailfish. The sailfish, when he's doing that, it's because both of his eyeballs are on the edge of his head. And when he lifts the bill out of the water, he has to turn from side to side to see that bait. And that, when it touches his bill, he can go boom, and then it swallows it. Same thing with a blue marlin. They crush things. They grab it and they crush it, and that's how they eat stuff. And they'll eat whatever is the most around. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be squid. It could be little tiny red puffer fish. It could be needlefish. It could be whatever. If there's big balls of it swimming around, that's what they're going to be full of. Blue marlin is a very opportunistic feeder, and the main reason is because 99% of the ocean is a big blue empty. So he's got to eat when he finds something. And he's never seen anything moving faster, moving through the water, smaller than him, that he couldn't eat.
Right.
So he wants to eat everything. Now, if we're going to be using a live bait or something, he wants to eat a dolphin or a tuna if he's big. But any of these billfish can eat a bait that's 10% of its body weight. So an 80-pound white marlin can conceivably eat an 8-pound tuna.
Yeah.
And none of us ever use baits that big. We all think, oh, he'll never be able to gag that down. But they can. The bad thing about using those big baits is because the bigger the bait, the harder the hookup. And that's the same way with lures, dead bait combos with lures, and just a pure dead bait or live bait by itself. You know, a bigger bait is a harder thing for a fish to get down and hook up. So another thing we want to do, a trend that's been going along quite a bit lately, is use a smaller hook. You know, we don't need to use a 12-aught. You know, here's a great big lure. It's actually rigged for wahoo fishing, but I use this example. That's like a 10-aught or 11-aught, and the guys usually would put a 12-aught or something in that. A 10-aught hook is just fine for this, and the thin as you can get away with, you think, is the best. A single hook rig is even better than this double hook rig. Because you don't want to have one hook in the fish and one hook in the mate, or one hook in the lower jaw and one hook in the upper jaw. If he gets away, he can't eat anymore. It's a dead fish. The best hookup ratio comes with a single hook rig with a hook all the way in the tail of the skirt. So as long as the eye is in the tail of the skirt, it's IGFA legal. So, and that is that's a good little deal right there.
You're treating marlin almost the same way that pompano anglers treat pompano with a pompano jig, because they trim it down so that the hook is at the very end, and they get more hookups that way. So it's kind of interesting.
I reckon so. Yeah.
Well, what about live bait?
Well, you know, when we're using, you don't use a live bait until you know that there's a fish around, because you can't really move around a lot. You've either marked a big fish, you've seen one feeding on a weed line, or you're on a big mountain and you're marking fish on that mountain,
or a fad.
Pinnacle, a fad, oil rig, let's say, something that's there, and you know that there's a fish there. That's when you catch you a little tuna fish. A skipjack tuna being the best tuna bait there is, because he glows when he's alive, and a marlin can see him from a long way away. The next best bait's probably a yellowfin, then maybe a tuna, a little toonie, bonita.
What about something like a blue runner?
A blue runner's a good bait to throw, but a tuna's the better. Tunas. Then maybe a blue runner, and then a dolphin. A dolphin doesn't live that long on a hook when you put a live bait out, but they will eat a dolphin. It's, as a matter of fact, if you're fishing out here at Jupiter, around those bonita schools, there's always a bonita school that spends the summer out here on the East Coast in front of these inlets. If you sat there every day and put a bonita out, you'd probably catch a blue marlin.
Gotcha.
You know, But we don't fish for blue marlins on the East Coast for some reason a lot of times.
Well, we're using heavy leaders.
Right.
You know, what size leader do you like to throw?
A 200-pound test is fine. But this is a thing right here, dispelling the myth. You don't have to have a 50, like Jimbo said, to go catch blue marlins.
Right.
Tons of blue marlins have been caught on 30 and 40-pound gear.
And definitely white marlin can be caught on that gear.
Oh, definitely. But tons of blue marlins between 100 and 300 pounds.
Okay.
All it takes is a guy who's running the boat who knows what he's doing. When you hook a fish on 30-pound, you go to the fish. You don't sit and wait for the fish. We don't back up to the fish. Yeah. We turn the boat and we run to the fish.
Race to the fish.
A marlin angler should be a line retriever. He's not a winch. We're not going to winch a 300-pound fish to the boat with 40-pound tackle or 30-pound tackle. We have to go get him. He's going to come up and start jumping. We want to move the boat, position the boat to haul butt until we get there. Right when he stops all that running and jumping and messing around, because as soon as you hook a blue marlin, he's going to take off. Yeah. And he's going to take off jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. And if you're backing up trying to get to him, you're never going to get to him. You're just going to keep backing, and he's going to get all the line off. So what we want to do is we want to turn, and when he's done and he's exhausted, like after you run a 440, you put all the drag on him then, and he'll roll right over.
So it's just kind of like the way that small boaters like myself who are in bay boats, like the way we chase down tarpon on the beach.
Correct.
It would be almost the same kind of thing. You're just dealing with a much larger predator.
Right. Well, even, tarpon, 150-pound tarpon, 100-pound tarpon.
We've had 150
that's a big, he's as big as a marlin.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
I would do that all the time. As soon as I hooked one, I would go chase them down. I'd run them down. I'd run them until they tire out, and then put all the drag on them.
Then hammer them.
Hammer them hard.
Let them do that marlin stuff, and then get on them.
Yeah,
Dave,
exactly.
this is your wheelhouse. I love seeing you so excited over there. It makes me so happy. I want to catch a marlin with you. All right, well, Jim, you're on double duty this week, and you're pulling it off well. So why don't you come on over here, put your Real Legend Central East Region captain hat on.
Let me get that one and put it back on. Okay.
Yep, and give us your report.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great week for the guys and gals that want to get out there because it's been slow leading into this moon, but after this moon, it's going to be really, really good. So the guys and gals that are getting out to do some marlin fishing, this time of the year, there's so many guys running over to the other side of the Gulf Stream trying to catch yellowfin tuna. Those are the guys that are getting the shots at the marlin. So make sure that you have at least one marlin rig ready on the boat and possibly two, because like Dave said, you never know when they're going to show up and where they're going to pop up. Most of our marlin, our white marlin, are just like everywhere else on the East Coast. They're basically 60 to 80 pound class fish, and our blue marlins are 125 to about 200s. So it's a nice fish if you get a 200-pound fish, and every once in a while you'll see one slip in there that's 400 pounds. So shark fishing is the other thing that we're going to be talking about in this region, and right now the offshore waters are absolutely slap full. All of the shark charters are out there catching them up. The nighttime party boats are catching them up. Us light tackle guys are out there throwing top waters and live baits and all kinds of. We're sight fishing them in some cases because there's so many of them, and you can get out there anywhere from Sebastian down to the Vero, and then from Port Canaveral up around the tip of the Cape. There's a lot of lemon sharks. There's a couple of spinners. There's black tips. There's fine tooth. So there's a lot of action going on around the bait pods right now. And then up behind the shrimp boats in Ponce Inlet, there's massive amounts of sharks up there, and the dead bycatch that the shrimp boats are dumping out. You just go up there and dip net some of that, throw some on a hook with a little wire on it, throw it back out the back, and you're pretty quickly going to be hooked up to a shark. Got a picture here of Max. This is kind of interesting. This is a little baby hammerhead that we had swim up to the boat the other day, and we kind of pitched out to him and caught him on a light spinning rod. So that was pretty cool.
Witness protection program.
Yes, it is. And then swinging inshore, our tarpon action, near coastal / inshore, our tarpon action's still pretty good right now. Most of the fish are in Crane Creek, Turkey Creek, and the Sebastian River down in the south part of the county. And then when you get up to the north part of the county, they're up around the Hallover Canal, the ICW channel outside of Hallover on the Indian River side, and then up in the backwaters from New Smyrna around Three Sisters all the way up to the South Bridge at New Smyrna. Most of these fish are running about 40 to 60 pounds inside. A couple of them are running 80. The beach fish, we caught fish this week up to 150 pounds. Live pogies and live croakers are definitely the way to go. You want to use a 60 or 80 pound leader. You want to use a 7/0 circle hook on those fish. And just like Dave was talking about with the marlin, let tarpon do their tarpon thing. Let them turn back flips, front flips, side flips, whatever they want to do. Their tarpon are going to do tarpon things. Once they get all that out of their system after the first 5-10 minutes, then you start putting more pressure on them, and that way you can pull those fish in quickly. Got a picture here with Joe Daly with the nice fish that he had the other day. It was one of those little ones, and then he caught one after that was about 4 times that size, and he said he did not have to go to the gym the whole rest of the week because his arms were done. And then swinging in a little bit tighter, Mosquito Lagoon redfish. Right now, it's really showing some resilience from previous years, and we're really happy about that. Anglers are finding really good areas of seagrass, especially in the middle and south parts, and that's where those fish are hanging out. Captain Brian Pounds was actually telling me that he was fishing mullet schools, and that he could see the redfish feeding in the mullet, tailing in the mullet, and he's casting live pigfish and live croakers to these fish. When you're fishing the redfish with those live baits, you want to keep your rod tip upwards, and you want to oink your pigs, if you will, or croak your croaker. You twitch them up very sharply 2 or 3 times, let them fall back down to the grass, and then twitch them very sharply back up. It's called oinking your pig, basically. And I've got a picture here Captain Brian sent me of Leonard Bareford with one of those typical Mosquito Lagoon redfish right now.
Very nice. I love it. Nice report, Jim. Good job.
Great stuff. Well, let's talk about my hot spots,
Let's talk about your Rodan Marine hot spots. Let's put them on up there. Go ahead.
Rodan Marine hot spots for my region, Central East, Space Coast area, redfish in the Mosquito Lagoon, freeline pigfish or croakers in the grassy areas for reds in the 20 to 34 inch range, and then offshore, tarpon, sharks, kingfish behind the shrimp boats outside of ponds. It's been solid all week. Use live baits or discarded shrimp boat bycatch, and you're going to get some really fast action up there. It's been really good.
And let the tarpon do tarpon things before you bring them to the boat.
Before you bring them to the boat.
Got it. All right, well, tonight we were talking marlin, and if you love trolling for these billfish, then you can certainly catch a dolphin and a kingfish. And you know what? Every offshore fish you catch counts in the CCA Florida Star competition presented by Yamaha. For example, if you catch the first Tigers Tag dolphin, you could win $10,000 cash, and in the Canon Kingfish division, you can win Canon downriggers, Yamaha motors, and Tigers kite packages. All you have to do is enter STAR and be a CCA member before you get on the water to make your offshore fishing more rewarding this summer. So get registered at ccaflstar.com. Get fishing and keep winning. Registered member.
So many
Got
prizes
it.
in that tournament. Oh, it's ridiculous.
I know. Just be registered,
Tons
be a member.
of ways to win.
Let's go fish. All right, the Yanmar ASV Keys and Casa Vieja Southwest regions are ready for our fun-filled holiday weekend ahead, so keep on trolling, and we'll be right back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, Your Fish, Our Science, Bahio Sunglasses, Blue Light Blocking, Radically Clear Lenses, Sea Sucker, Easy On, Easy Off, Incredibly Strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, Together We Do More, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA, and Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
You know, Jim, Sirius is always coming up with ways to impress us, so why don't we check out some of the things SiriusXM Marine is doing to help out our fishing game?
Let's do it.
Okay.
When I head offshore, I'm always thinking about where I should go to find fish. And with SiriusXM Fish Mapping Service, I have access to oceanographic data directly on my display that shows me the areas that are most likely to have fish. The fish mapping services include all of SiriusXM weather features to keep you informed while you're out on the water, and several fishing specific features like fish recommendations, which makes it super easy by showing color-coded areas to fish based on ideal conditions for different species. If I don't see any recommendations for an ideal spot in my area, I use other features to help me find the areas with the best fish conditions. I'll look at plankton fronts and sea surface temperature fronts. These features show the areas where the most significant changes in plankton and sea surface temperatures occur. These strong fronts often attract bait fish that game fish feed on. I can see weed line locations identified by satellites where the most prominent weed lines appear offshore, and I can track their path. I can also look for upwellings and possible eddy locations that have been identified. These areas are where nutrient-rich water is likely to come up from below and where nutrients and bait fish are being concentrated. SiriusXM Marine Fish Mapping helps me plan my day before I head out, and it lets me make decisions about where I want to fish while I'm out on the water with information delivered right on my display.
Well, Jim, what do you have to say about that?
There's a lot to be said about that XM package. Not
Yeah.
only can you get the weather for like a small boat like this, you don't have to have a radar, you can get the weather overlay.
Yeah, weather's great.
Even when you're out of sail range, which is really important for a small boater. But like Rick was talking about, altimetry, where the water's coming up or the water's going down. Where the water's coming up, there's more fish. When the water's
Right,
going
upwelling
down,
down.
there's typically less fish. And so being able to track those kinds of things on a day-to-day basis, I mean, even if you just run out in the side yard, turn it on and look at it on a Wednesday, go back on Thursday evening, Friday evening after you've been off work, and then Saturday morning, you know
Exactly
where
where
it's
you're gonna
going.
go.
You can predict exactly where that thing's going to be, and it'll back it up as you pull in there. It'll show on your XM.
Right, helping our fishing game out, like I said. All right, the Yanmar ASB Keys region is a perfect place to celebrate this coming weekend. So let's see what kind of bite we can expect on the water with Captain Sarah Stanzik.
Hey everyone, here from the Yanmar ASB Keys region. It's looking like a nice weather weekend. We've had really slick, calm days like yesterday, today, tomorrow looks gorgeous. If anyone wants to go catch a marlin, like tomorrow is your day. It's going to be zero wind, gorgeous offshore, flat calm. The Keys really isn't a huge hot spot for marlin fishing. People do, fish for them, and this time of year actually is the time of where we see the marlin here, these summer months. So they're most often seen chasing after like a schoolie dolphin or a tuna. So, you go out to catch dolphin or tuna, and if you're fast and you're ready, like a marlin will come up and try to eat your tuna by the boat, and then you can like catch a bait to them. That's pretty much how we catch marlin here in the Keys. So also sometimes they'll eat a swordfish bait down deep when you're deep dropping for the swords, but otherwise, like, not that many people spend time like targeting them because they're just sporadic, but they do come through during the summer months now. As a matter of fact, a boat yesterday caught one I heard of. But there's always a handful kind of around traveling through, but it's kind of like an accidental surprise. You're catching, a school of mahi, and a marlin comes up, and you pitch a bait and you catch it, and it's so exciting when it happens, but it's random. So that's exactly what happened, last week on the Tan Man charter boat, and here's a photo of all these smiling faces because a marlin any day, an awesome day.
Heck yeah. Love it.
I have yet to have that day. It's coming soon for me, I feel it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Moving on to mutton snapper, this year has been, I don't know, it's the year of the mutton snapper fishing in the Keys. We have never seen like the amount of fish and numbers, and like they're all big fish and they're healthy, and like it's crazy. I mean, the boats have been catching like 5, 6, 10 a day lately. And it just seems to be getting better as we go into the summer, but it's really good mutton snapper fishing, which is like kind of unusual to see that many like big fish. So we typically target them, in the deeper waters off the reefs and the wrecks on some kind of structure, like somewhere between 100 and 200 feet deep, average, a live pilchard or just a butterfly ballyhoo or a pinfish. Just you could use a simple butterfly ballyhoo. Like I went out today and we caught 6, and I had rotten, nasty ballyhoo, and they were eating these ballyhoo, and it didn't matter. Like you don't need to stop to catch live pilchards. Just like go buy a bag of ballyhoo, butterfly it, drop it down there on a 30-foot leader with a 5/0 circle hook and a 1-pound weight. I mean, we lost 2 or 3 more, but we caught 6, and they were like up to 12 or 13 pounds, maybe even 14. We didn't even weigh them, but they were like really nice fish, and we didn't have like the best bait ever, like old ballyhoo. So they're really fun to catch. They pull hard. They're really good to eat. We're cooking it for dinner as I speak, feeding the kids, like very white, flaky meat. Here's a boat. They caught one the other day, the early bird, and I'm sure they ate that fish for dinner too.
Oh, yeah. They didn't invite me. I'm sad.
You got your taste of mutton in the
I
Keys.
got a good one when I was down there. Well, tell us about the inshore bite, Sarah.
The muttons are so good to eat. Like I can smell it right now. They're cooking it out in the kitchen, and I'm drooling because it smells so good.
All right, that's it. We're on our way.
Okay.
Inshore.
Well, changing subjects, going inshore, backcountry. The snook, everyone's been saying the snook bite's been really good this week up in the Everglades Park. So you want to target them on like structure again. So mangrove islands, creeks, jetties, down trees, live pilchards is the preferred bait. But you can use artificial bait and live shrimp, and it just depends on the conditions and the time of year. Snook are like predator fish. Like, you really know when they hit your bait. They hit hard, they have a good bite, they shake their heads, they're fun to catch, they jump a lot of times. Like, they're fun fish to catch. And look at the size of this snook. This is a giant one caught by Captain Vinny Biondelletti.
There you go. That's what it's about.
It was the beard.
Yep.
Well, tell us about the permit, because that bite's been really good for the past month or so, too.
Yeah, the permit's been really good. This last week, again, I got reports of like lots of little permit have been around, but that's a really good, like, we like to see all those juveniles. And I mean, they're still fun to catch. A permit's a permit, doesn't matter the size, if you ask me. But there's lots of small, healthy fish around right now, a lot of little permits swimming around in the backcountry. So a small crab or a live shrimp are the favorite bait. But I'm telling you that one day I went back in the Gulf and I caught 50 permit. I ran out of bait. I mean, I caught 50 fish. I ran out of live bait that I had. And I used the fish bites, like fighting shrimp, because I had buckets of those on my boat from you guys. So, and we crushed the permit on those little fish bites fighting shrimp that day because I ran out of every live bait I had. So that was awesome. Like, fish bites are great. But here's a photo of, look at this tiny little permit they caught and released. Like, that's the next generation. It's so little.
Awesome.
It is great. Like you say, it's great to see them. Well, I tell you what,
Yeah.
Sarah, fantastic report from the Shallow Sports Keys area. And let's check out, see what your hot spots are for that region. Captain Sarah says, good snook bite in the park this week. Live pilchards are your best bait. You'll want to target snook on structure like down trees, creeks, and mangrove islands. And then offshore, the mutton snapper is consistent off the reefs in the deeper water. Use a live pilchard or butterfly ballyhoo. They're all good baits. And use a long leader. That was the one thing that was really cool when I was down there.
Yeah.
30, 40-foot leader. I've never done that before. It was fantastic to be able to catch those fish. And like she says, anybody can do it. If I can go down there and do it, anybody
Jen,
can.
you stop
So,
it.
if you get a chance, go.
Go.
It's happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got some tournaments to talk about in the Florida Keys, so let's take a look. First is the Key West Fishing Tournament, which continues through July 31st with more than 40 species eligible for citations and other awards. Then is the Key West Association of Realtors Charity Fishing Tournament, where anglers compete for cash prizes and to benefit Fair Insurance Rates Monroe while targeting sailfish, mahi, blackfin tuna, and kingfish. Next is the Bill Knowles Memorial Poor Boys Tarpon Fly Tournament in Islamorada, where the team with the most releases of tarpon 4 feet and longer win trophies and bragging rights. And finally, the Key West Marlin Tournament, celebrating its 41st year, set for July 19th through the 22nd, features $50,000 in cash prizes and coincides with the annual Hemingway Days celebration. I love all these tournaments with 5 titles. So fun. The Poor Boys Tarpon Tournament. All right, let's go. We're staying true to the red, white, and blue in the Casa Vieja Southwest region. So let's see what our captain, Ronnie Houston, has us reeling in. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, obviously, Marlin's not common in the region, but I'll tell you what, with the light winds we've actually had in the last week, and something I don't talk about much, which is pretty good, are the African pompanos. Now, there's plenty of opportunity to catch these fish right now, anywhere from Marco to Fort Myers Beach. And the reports I'm getting actually all through the region up to Boca Grande are depths right now in anywhere from 90 to 120 feet of water. And most of these guys that are targeting the African pompanos are strictly fishing wrecks and towers. Now, one thing you got to understand is look for these fish to be suspended midway down. A lot of times the baits I'm going to talk about, when you drop down, the slightest little tick in your line, that African pompano is already taking your bait, so be prepared to check out these fish midway down. You can use a variety of jigs, anywhere from 3/8 to ½ ounce, and the baits most guys have been using right now to catch these fish are live shrimp or live pilchards, and like I said, it's been moderate. Your moderate days seem to be better, and I've got a prime example of a nice African pompo that was just recently caught while fishing with Captain Mike Avanon.
Nice.
Second species is going to be the permit. That bite is still remaining strong throughout the whole region, and obviously down to the south where Sarah's at, Naples North, artificial reefs, wrecks, and towers. Some of these fish, especially with this light winds we're having, are holding in big schools, and you can actually get on top of some of this structure, and they can be sight casted too. But if you don't see the fish on top, obviously we want to tree-line live crabs, or you can drift across the areas of structure using a variety of weights, maybe see if you got a little bit of wind, where these fish might be located in the water column if they're not on the structure. Now, schooling fish have been the best bite on the calmer days. So some of these guys have been telling me a dozen or 2 dozen crabs hasn't been a problem going through catch and permit. Depending upon what type of structure you're fishing, 30 to 60 pound fluorocarbon. And like I said, you can either free line, depending upon the current, just add a little bit of weight to live crabs. And here's a nice permit recently caught while fishing with Capt. Perry Bedell. The inshore bite, the snook. Now, things are going to change a little bit here because with the approach of the full moon in July, just before July 4th weekend, night fishing has really been good throughout the region. You want to concentrate your efforts on bridge spans as well as intercoastal docks, seawalls, and passes. And actually, the more light you are around, the better, because if you get in some of these areas where it's too dark, there can be phosphorus, which can leave a glow on the water that can actually hurt the fishing if you're using artificials. Switching the line or the bait, that phosphorescence is going to streak through the water. Good moving current is going to be key, as well as fishing some of these shadow lines. Baits of choice right now have been the live shrimp, live pilchers, artificial bass assassin shrimp, and root beer or glow, orange paddle tails, or you can use bucktail jigs in white, chartreuse, and yellow, and a variety of 3 to 5 inch swim baits. And here's a nice snook that was recently caught up in the Punta Gunner region, fishing one of the bridge spans. Last species is going to be the redfish. The bite right now to the south can be tough, but the bite seems to be a little bit better to the north, from Pine Island Marina to York Key, concentrating on independent islands with coves and deadwood on your lower water. If you have light winds on our lower water, look for schooling fish pushing on top. And as the water gets high, you want to concentrate on fishing mangroves where there are creeks and coves. Now, like I say, to the south, it's been tough. Woodland and Rabbit Key, your middle bays, with more fresh water. We're having trouble getting the freshwater flow out in the Gulf from the rains, getting those areas where the water is changing color or a little more stained or tannic. Mid-tides have been best. Before that tide floods, then fish get up in the bushes, gotta wait for them to come back out. To the north, 1/4 ounce and 1/2 ounce full spoons, your Berkeley Jaywalkers in chrome or bone. Cut baits I recommend on high water, as well as live pilchers, both north to the south. I have a nice picture of some oversized redfish that was just caught in a tournament that we had down south over the weekend. Guys, make sure you got all your boating safety equipment for the Sports of the weekend. Go out and have fun, but most of all, make sure you're safe.
Well, thanks, Ronnie. That was a fantastic report. I'll take your Serenity Bait Company hotspots for the Southwest region from here. Captain Ronnie Houston says, inshore, your tarpon on the beaches and passes from Wiggins Pass north are good, and you also want to check the area bridge spans at night. And then offshore, red snapper from Marco to Fort Myers Beach, 130 to 200 feet of water is where you want to be, using some cut and live baits. Start out with squid. You can get the bite going a little easier that way.
There you go. Maybe some fish bites. Never know.
Some fish bites.
Never know. The Discover Crystal River Northwest region is coming up next, but first we're over at the CCA workbench with Taco Marine new products. Dave.
What did you say?
What?
What did you say?
Oh no.
It's not an ear.
Say it ain't so.
But I don't know what it is. Well, maybe you'll find out.
We'll
I guess
find
you can
out.
read that stuff on there. Nope, you can't.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, we're back at the CCA workbench with the Taco Marine Trolling the Edge new product segment. And
yes,
I
sir.
tell you what, Dave, man, this is impressive.
It's a barge is what it is.
This
it's
is
a party
impressive.
barge. It is a party
you.
barge. It's the Sea Sucker double-decker party barge.
For the guy who thought he had everything.
Exactly. It's
now
the ultimate,
you can have
ultimate
everything.
portable barge system for your boat, your RV, or even putting it on the side of your truck for a tailgate.
Yeah, you can suck your cup into anything.
Attaches to any vertical position with these two Sea Sucker cups on the back. It's rated for something like 400 pounds. So, you're not going to be able to pull it off. You stick that on the side of your boat or on the side of your truck, and you don't have to keep getting out of the water on the sandbar to make another drink. It's just sitting right there.
Yeah. Tighten it up, loosen it up.
And those allow you to put two. You can put two handles in each one of these.
Handle bottles.
A handle bottle.
That's when
not
you're serious about
the little
it.
bottles, the handles. Or you can adjust them down to fit a bottle of wine or whatever, from a square to a circle, whatever you want.
And they just suction cup on the back with
Exactly.
the patented sea sucker.
Exactly. And you put your mixers in the middle there. They got this nice handy ice bucket. You can suction cup anything you want right here.
Yeah.
But they give you a little ice bucket to put on there with a little set of tongs. Oh, that's a nice sound.
I like that sound.
Also has the 4 cups in the front there. They're insulated with the stainless
I'm not
steel.
sure those are going to get used a whole lot.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But
sea sucker.
But they will hold extra smaller bottles.
They will. They hold a bottle.
Mixers for like your Coke and your sodas, your club sodas, and your things can go in there.
Right.
Yeah.
You can put knives and stuff in there too. They got little tools.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Anyway, go to seasucker.com to get you one of those party barges. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. That is
Next, we've got this little tiny thing here. The Paul Brown's Maniac Mullet. That's the Maniac Mullet, the slow sink. It's got kind of like a lip like on the way the nose is built. It gives it a really incredible erratic action. Really gets explosive strikes on that thing.
It's a soft
Very
body.
soft body, so they'll grab it and hold on to it.
And hold it.
If you twitch it really good, it goes crazy, man. If you just twitch it and reel, that little thing just goes nuts. That little tail's flopping around. It's 4.5 inches, 5/8 ounce. Trout, reds, anything you cast to will probably eat that thing.
That looks good enough to eat right now.
ShopMirrorLure.com to get the Paul Brown's Maniac Mullet.
All right.
Next but not least, this little cool thing here. It's not a big silver ear like I was trying to think it was, but it didn't go over very well. Easy lift trailer jack is what it is. It's if you have a flat tire on your trailer, you just put this thing up against your axle and drive and back it up, and it'll lift right up. And there you go. You drive forward. Actually, you drive forward to lift. Is that what you do? Correct. Yeah, and then you can pull your tire off. It works on 8 and 15-inch wheels. You can store your trailer like that if you want to, but it has a 4,000-pound max load, so you can actually leave your boat on it and change your tires and
got
whatnot.
a rating right on the back of the thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool thing to have. For $65. It'd be great to have on the your back of your car, and
it beats the heck out of
exactly.
All day.
You just put that thing in there and drive forward.
And where do we find those?
Well, you go to TH Marine Supplies and .com, and you can get you one of those.
Cool.
Easy lift
trailer jack.
All right. Last but not least, we got this pretty cool thing here. It's the Toit Haywire Twist Tool. You can show them those. It makes 3 different size haywire twists. You can put all those together and show the camera there. It's probably going to be.
It may not be easy.
And you'll be able to get them. 3 different sizes. There you go.
Get him against the back of my hand, maybe?
Yeah, he's over there. That's the one we're doing.
With the shirt?
No, over here, dude.
How's that?
There you go. But anyway, what you do with this thing, this haywire twist tool,
right?
You get this thing like this, put your wire inside there in the diameter you want, and you bend it like that. And now you can hold it. And that's the hardest part of a haywire twist, is getting that first bend so where you can hold it and make that first twist. And once you've made that twist, boom, keep going. Now you've got a nice pair of pliers that holds that makes a perfect loop.
And depending on, let me use your backdrop here for just a second. Depending on where you put it on that jaw, you've got the small, medium, and large.
Right, those are the 3 I was showing you. Yeah, it makes three different ones.
So perfect.
Yeah, and it's made out of drop forged stainless steel. It's got that nice blue coating on there that doesn't let anything corrode in it. So it's a really nice tool. The Toit Haywire Twist Tool.
Somebody's always thinking of something really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. And where do they find those?
You go to fishrazor.com.
Fantastic.
Fishrazor.com. They have all the Toit tools.
Great job, Dave. And we're going to swing back over
Keeping
to Brie.
Keeping it
Keeping
over
it
there.
toit.
Toit and toit.
Well, I think they are made in Australia.
Toit, yeah. Well,
Toit.
Well, you guys have Tin Cup over there. I have Tin Cup over here. And we want to mention that CCA Florida has partnered with Tin Cup Whiskey in an effort to protect the health, habitat, and sustainability of marine resources through conservation and enhancement of coastal environments. For every bottle of Tin Cup Whiskey sold in Florida, $1 will go to CCA Florida. So that's pretty cool. I'll be buying a whole bunch of this stuff because whiskey is my thing. Whiskey makes me not frisky. All right, the Discover Crystal River Northwest region is always ready for the weekend, especially the Stars and Stripes kind. So Hag, tell us what we're reeling in.
Well, Marlin, we're not really known for them, but we do have them, but you're going to have to make a long run on our coast to get out to that deep water to get to them. An overnight trip is almost a must to make it worthwhile. That being said, there's a few tournaments that target billfish in our region, the Old Salt, the Loop Tournament, and the Sarasota Slam, all produce marlin when they're out there. All the standard stuff, I'm sure Dave covered most of it. Trolling soft heads, Islander lures, blue and white, purple and black are some of the favorite colors. Naked jumbo, skirted ballyhoos, also a great bait. Live baits, bonitas, big blue runners, small blackfin tuna are all great live baits and all work on our coast. But what we do have out right now, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports on the red snapper bite right now. Right now, the bigger red snapper can be found right in 130 to 100 or 200 feet of water. Look for them a little higher in the water column. The smaller fish, like I always talk about, will be below them. The bite's been a little finicky right now. A bottom rig with 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader and a 6/0 to 8/0 circle hook with 6 to 10 ounces of lead, depending on the depth you're fishing. If you're not getting bites, drop your leader down a little bit, drop your hook size down a little bit. And he's also doing pretty good right now on vertical jigs. So give those a try while you're out there and drop a vertical jig down and pick up a couple more of those nice red snapper we got in season right now. Moving on inshore, Captain Mario Costello at Tall Tales Charters out of Ozella Keys Marina reports a good redfish bite right now around the mangrove islands and keys from Crystal River to the Chaz. They're working the mangrove islands that have been active with mullet schools around the points and the coves and overhanging mangrove branches. He's using live select shrimp on an 8-ounce jig head when the schools are up tight to the mangroves. When the fish get out away from the mangroves, he's using a free line pinfish when they move off that shoreline just a little bit. Most of the fish right now are running anywhere from 22 to 27 inches with a few overslot mixed in. And I got a photo here of Scott with a 29-inch redfish caught on a recent trip with Captain Mario.
Nice,
Go Scott.
Yeah, nice little oversized one right there.
Yep. Staying inshore, Captain Lee Thomas out of Port St. Joe reports a fair bite this past week with the bad weather he's been having. When the weather is allowing, the bite's been good to fair. Trout's been scattered, but they've been really quality and good-sized fish on the grass lines near the deep water, providing the best chances for success right now. Live pilchers and pinfish fished on a bottom Carolina rig has been very effective. When fishing over the deeper grass flats, he's using a popping cork, and that's also been especially effective on those higher tides. And I got a couple photos from Captain Lee of some nice Port St. Joe trout.
That's fantastic. You know, we've seen a lot of rain up there, Jeff, and is that affecting any of those backwaters right now throughout your region?
It is. It's cooling it off, which is helping a little bit because it got hot real quick. We went from being cool to getting hot real quick, so it is affecting the bite, and I think it's going to make the bite a little better. The more rain we get, cools the water off a little bit.
So look for those temperature breaks inshore the same way a guy would offshore if he was trolling for dolphin or kingfish or wahoo.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about scallops, Jeff?
Oh, yeah.
Scallop season's opening up.
It's just opening up. I haven't got very many reports yet.
Okay.
But I will have some next week.
Woohoo!
Looking forward to that.
Can't wait.
Love my scalloping.
Oh, yeah, we all do.
Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the good report, and we'll take the Ozella Keys Marina hotspots for the Northwest region from here. Captain Jeff says, inshore, snook along the beaches and passes. Use pinfish, grunts on the outgoing tide. Just drift those out there. And then on the offshore, mangrove snapper on the high relief structure from 40 to 75 feet of water. Use small pinfish and cut sardines as bait.
I thought maybe with Jeff, I would have like a little secret, pre-scallop, bit for us.
Little tip, like he's been out there scouting a little bit.
He's not. All right, next week we'll get all of the goods.
I'm sure we'll get the lowdown.
Scallop goods.
Yep.
All right, the Startron Central West and Fish Bites East region reports are coming right up after this. But before we take a short break from our Marlin mania, I want you to take a look at the QR code on your screen and make sure you scan it right now to get exclusive access to our live audience sign up throughout the season, and of course all of our social media channels. Plus we'll be uploading new videos on our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Startron. Start, run, and store with Startron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Well, welcome back. When you guys see some of the catches coming from the Star Trend Central West region, you'll be more than ready to get out on the water this weekend and get some of that for yourself. So Captain Page, help us do just that.
Yes, ma'am. Good to hear you up there, Jimmy. You know, we have blue and white marlin, and you've got to get out into at least 600 feet of water to have any chance at catching one. And then you're going to want to troll structure and pay attention to weed lines. And then you can pull up your temp brakes that you can get off water satellite charts. 4 to 6 lures in a spread is a great method. You can go faster to cover more area. Rigged ballyhoo and squid work real well. 30 to 50 pound class rod. Early morning or late afternoon are the most productive times, but you also can pick them up deep dropping in the heat of the day. So I've got a couple photos tonight. The first one from Captain Randy Powell of a fish on the still hooked. And then another one, boat side, from Captain Chris Seeger of Tight Line. Staying offshore, the red snapper bite, as you know, is open now, season recreational, and guys are getting out there and they're getting their limits. No problem. Probably 150 feet of water at least has been the most productive for good keeper fish. And you're going to want to mark small areas of hard bottom as well as ledges. Live pinfish, pilchards, spread fins are all going to get the job done. But even frozen sardines have been working real good, Jimmy. And standard bottom rigs. And I've got a photo tonight from Captain Tim Noe of Gulf Coast Offshore Ventures with a nice red snapper.
Looking
That'll
good.
work.
Oh, man.
Well, tell us what's going on inshore, Paige.
Inshore, redfish, seems like as soon as that water starts getting up near 90 degrees and the afternoon thunderstorms, which we haven't had, but the redfish are showing up anyway. And these high tides that we're coming up on this full moon, I believe that's on the 3rd, look for the fish up around the mangroves, up around the oyster bars, to the north area around the Manatee River, up into Terracea Bay. Captain Griffin Deans has been doing real well on them, on live bait as well as cut bait, up under the bushes during the high tide. And then down my way a little bit, Captain Devin York's had a couple really productive days using live pilchards over the oyster bars. Now, if it's lures that you like throwing, it's hard to beat that Berkeley juke in the bone or the chrome pattern. And it has a small lip on it, but instead of diving deep, it stays just below the surface and almost walks the dog. And once you get that pattern of twitching that rod, it's a real productive lure. So, like I said, down south around Bull and Turtle Bay, also the oyster bars there. I've got a photo tonight from Captain Devin York of Hook One Charters out of Sarasota with 3 happy anglers, some nice redfish he just caught the other day. And my last species, the snook fishing remains. I know, Jimmy, you've been catching them. And when we can get out in the Gulf, that's been the best. But when the west wind blows in the passes, and again on the oyster bars and mangrove shorelines, and I've been catching more fish on the wind-blown sides of the bay than on the protected side. I don't know if it's pushed more bait in or what. The Berkeley Jaywalker 120 or the Berkeley Stick Shad 110 is real productive with the fish on the higher stages of the tide, but you're not going to beat live pinfish or pilchards for your bigger snook, especially at night around the bridges and passes. And my last photo tonight is a friend of the show and friend of a sponsor of the show, Kent Krebeck from Maverick Boat Group, with a nice one that we got this past weekend at the Maverick Owner Tournament out of Tarpon Lodge on Pine Island.
Go Kent, that's an awesome fish.
Hey, Jeff, real quick, you know, you guys have had a lot of red tide issues over on the West Coast, and we hear about that periodically. How is that right now? Because we've had a lot of west wind. Is it clearing up any for you guys over there?
You know, what's amazing, Jim, is we were worried that we weren't going to have a tarpon season, and I guarantee you Hageman could back me up on this. And then overnight, right around April 1st, it just disappeared. And I mean, there's been no outbreaks. There's been no tinges of it. Now, once in a while, you'll see the FWC report where they are detecting blight, which is very minute. So, knock on wood, it's been good.
Well, I tell you what, that's great news for everybody that fishes on your coast and anywhere from there, north and south, because that red tide can be just absolutely
and I've
devastating.
got my good friend Eddie Zayak following me up, filling in for Hollywood tonight.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Well, thanks a lot for that report, Paige. I'll take the daiquiri deck hotspots for the Central West region from here. Captain Jeff Page says big snook are biting at night on the Venice jetties. You want to use a live ladyfish or silver mullet, they're going to be your best bait. And then offshore, good red snapper bite over hard bottom areas and ledges from 150 to 250 feet of water off a new pass.
Yeah, that must have been pretty scary. No tarpon season, no good.
Oh, man, can you imagine the amount of revenue lost for those guys if that would have happened? Oh, that would have been devastating.
Don't want to think about it, but overnight, there we go. Yeah. All right, like most of the other regions, catching a marlin is a welcome treat, and the right time, right place, a little luck maybe factors in, and the Fish Bites East region seems to follow suit. Mike Holliday is out, like Paige said, but Captain Eddie Zayak is on the line. Hey, Ed, welcome back to the show.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Good, buddy.
Good deal. Well, let's jump right into the marlin action here, which is kind of an incidental catch, really, in my region. And a lot of it comes from anglers who are chasing other species that are out on the east side of the Gulf Stream, chasing those tuna. And most of the fish are the blue marlin. The days of pulling the live bonita, that's long gone when the shark showed up. But like I said, most of them are blue marlin. They're under about 200 pounds. And there's also an occasional white marlin in the mix, usually in the fall or early winter. But when it comes to billfish, though, right now, the action here is superb. Our sailfish bites really, really good. And it's starting to get better and better, from Jupiter all the way up to Fort Pierce. These fish are in small pods, like 3 to 6 fish. They're spread out anywhere from 70 out to, just past 200 feet of water. And you can literally troll ballyhoo, slow troll, or I like to drift live baits. Of course, putting a bait under a kite is always great. But this time of year, especially when you get that bite, we always keep the baits out because you're going to have a shot at multiple fish. We should get a good vibe for how good the sailfish bite really is, because that one more bite sailfish challenge is coming up this Friday and Saturday. So that should really give us a gauge of how that summer bite's shaping up. I do have a photo. This is Captain Glenn Cameron off the Floridian, buddy of mine out of Stewart. This is a blue marlin they hooked up in Spoatside, airing out. That fish ate a rig ballyhoo.
Literally picture perfect.
Exactly. Tell us about the mutton snapper.
Yeah, again, so the full moon is coming up in about 4 days. And really the theme of this whole report is about this building moon. And the full moon in July is truly the best mutton snapper bite of the year. So it's going to get crowded out there, y'all. And so the reef, 85 to 105 feet of water, from Sloan's Curve all the way to the Juneau Pier, the Loran Ledge, the 6 Mile Reef, the Halsey, all those well-known spots are going to be super, super crowded. So get out early. We've had a south current and some cold water this last weekend, but a lot of that is kind of pushed off. So the bite should really pick up. You're going to want to anchor up, or I'm going to spot lock with my trolling motor over the sand and drop down live or dead pilchard, sardine, goggle eye, grunt plug. You can jig these fish. A little white jig with a strip of bonita on it is excellent. And that mutton right now is 6 to 12 pounds.
Nice.
So
got another photo.
This is a photo from Rich Du Bois at Salty Days Charters. He's out of PSL. This is a nice mutton they caught on the 6 Mile. And that fish ate a cigar minnow.
And what's going on inshore in your region?
Well, again, it's all about the moon. And this time of year, we get a big push of mangrove and juvenile cubera snapper push into our inlets, which is pretty cool. So you'll be pitching a bait to the rocks, catching the snook, and the next fish to the big cubera. So I find the best action to be around the rock piles and the jetties, bridges. Really anything that's providing some kind of cover is going to potentially hold these fish. Around the inlets, I like to fish around the slack or early in the tide when the current's a little bit lighter, and let those fish kind of come off of the structure a little bit to feed. It's really a blast. One of the best baits is a 4 to 6 inch Spanish sardine, but really any type of live bait is going to work well. sand perch, pinfish, shrimp, pilchards, threadfins, they all work. But you're just going to want to pitch it right up to the structure, right up to the rocks, and get ready. The average snapper right now is 1 to 3 pounds, and then occasionally you'll get smoked by a big cubera on the rocks. It's really a blast. Spencer Parr sent in this photo of a juvenile cubera they caught up in the river, and this fish ate a topwater plug, so that had to be truly awesome, that bite.
Yeah, cool. And you got some snook action going on too.
Oh yeah, again, the snook bite's been good, but with the full moon, we should really start to see that first big push of that spawning aggregation of snook moving into the inlet and all around our beaches. So you can target them this time of year, catch and release, of course. Lake Worth Pier, Juneau Pier is excellent. The beaches are really cool, especially we've had some west and southwest winds, so it's been super calm, clear, sunny skies. You can really do a lot of sight fishing. Hobe Sound Beach, the Wildlife Refuge, Bob Graham, Walton Rocks, all the way up to South Beach and Fort Pierce is holding snook right now. On the piers, live bait is king. Sardines, threadies, pilchards. On the beach, we throw a lot of artificials at these fish, so a 4-inch shadtail works great. And then it's a really good time of year if you like to fly fish, because you can walk the beach in the afternoons when the sun's kind of up overhead and really get some great sight fishing opportunities. And any type of bait fish pattern will work. Of course, if you talk to the guys on the beach, they all have the one they like, but most bait fish patterns will get the job done. Just take your time and revive, of course, these fish, and they're averaging 6 to 15 pounds, but there's some bruisers out there too. This is a pick. Chris Daniels came down from Morehead City, and he thumped this big snook in the St. Lucie Inlet. He was throwing a Houdini-colored 4-inch sea shad.
That's a beautiful fish. Well, you got about 20 seconds to give us the bass report, Ed.
I'll make it quick. Well, with all the rain, the lake's super high, and it's allowing the anglers to push way back in the marsh and target those big bass. Start out early because it's hot. The bite's over pretty quickly. There'll be schooling shad first thing in the morning. Get on them quick with spinner baits, topwater plugs, or, shad tails. And then later you can buzz frogs over the Kissimmee grass or dollar pads, anywhere from Harney Pond to Kings Bar. But like I said, get out early. Spend about 20 fish a day. Average bass is 1 to 3 pounds. They're catching some up over 8, so it's a good time to get out there.
Well, that's a fantastic report. We appreciate that. And I'll take your TH Marine hotspots for the East region from here. Captain Ed Zayak says, inshore, your tarpon at the crossroads in the Stewart area are really good right now. Live or dead mullet, threadfins or pilchards rigged on a 7/0 circle hook is what you're going to want to use there. And then offshore, sailfish in 140 feet of water off Hobe Sound. Use live goggle eyes, threadfins, or sardines, slow trolled, or putting them under a kite.
Love those kites.
I heard that sailfish bite's been awesome.
Gotta get out there and get me some of that too. All right, let's show our support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. For just $25, proceeds for the Redfish tag support protecting and, of course, enhancing Florida's saltwater marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Get this beautiful edition at your local DMV or visit redfishtag.com. It really is pretty.
I love mine.
Makes our workbench pop this year. All right, coming up, we're headed to the Front Runner Boats Northeast region and seeing what kind of weekend it has in store for us. So stay hooked, and we'll be right back on the Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Okay, you can hang.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack. Your partner on the road. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Dan Benson here from Powerpole Shallow Water Anchors. Over 20 years ago, we started out building our Powerpole Shallow Water Anchors, but our product offering has expanded a lot more these days. We've got our shallow water anchors in many different models. We can work on anything from as small as a stand-up paddleboard up to the biggest bay boat and pontoon. We also have our power pole charging system, which charges your entire boat when you're at home, charges when you're running on the water, and it has an emergency start built in. But now, with our new Power Pole Move trolling motor, we can move your boat, stop your boat, and charge your boat. So the full product line from Power Pole really covers you from prop to prop, bow to stern. For more information, go to powerpole.com, and that's your Power Pole tip.
What say you, Jim, about Power Pole?
You know, it's one of the easiest things that you can maintain the batteries in your boat.
Yeah.
It allows you to delegate wherever you want to put it, and you can. So if you run that main battery down and you have to charge all of it at the, you want to get all your charge going to it. It's just a fantastic thing, and it's swipe of a finger. Even I can do it, and I'm not very good on a cell phone.
You keep saying that. Even I can catch
But
mine
even
in the keys.
if I can do it, anybody out there can. If I can do it, y'all can do it. Trust me on that.
Well, if that ain't something to say, Jim.
There you go. There you go.
Cut yourself too much. All right. Coming up, August 5th is the North Florida King of the Beach tournament, sponsored by Frontrunner Boats, with over $350,000 in cash and prizes. The first place largest king wins a 20-foot Frontrunner boat. Whoa! For more information and to get registered, go to nfkingofthebeach.com.
That's a heck of a first place prize.
Right? Oh, I drive up myself and enter. If you want to scream "Got me a Marlin" in the Frontrunner Boats Northeast region, then listen up to your captain, Tommy Derringer. Tommy, you got to say it too. Come on, just say it.
I was going to ask if you said it yet tonight. Got me a Marlin. We say
there
it every
it is.
year.
I save it for you.
We do. Dr. Elaine. Look, we have a world-class marlin fishery here in the Frontrunner Boats Northeast region. You really don't hear about it too much, but there are some really hardcore anglers that do get after the marlin in my region, and they catch good numbers of fish and some really big ones as well. Those guys tell me the best times of year to target the marlin that tend to be about mid-April through about mid-June, although you can catch them pretty much any time of the year. Marlin really like that water temperature to be somewhere in that upper 70s to lower 80s. I talk every year with some of our resident marlin experts, and they tell me that they catch most of their marlin in the Gulf Stream in the spring. And what they're going to be looking for are weed lines, temperature breaks, current edges, that type of stuff. Now, while you're out there that time of year, you tend to catch some big mahi as a bycatch because you're using bigger baits and those bigger lures searching for the marlin. Now, those marlin like to eat those mahi, so hey, if you get into a bunch of mahi, you're probably in a good area for those marlin as well. Now, if you're looking to catch a marlin this time of year and through the summer months, you're probably going to want to be closer to the east side of the Gulf Stream. You're going to be out there deep, like 1,200 feet or even deeper than that. And you're going to want to start about 60 to 70 miles out and then head east from there. Now, the go-to method is going to be trolling a variety of lures, especially those in the mahi color pattern, around 8 to 10 knots. And then you can also drag horse ballyhoo, big Spanish mackerel, and other dead baits a little bit slower in that 6 to 8 knot range. Now, one thing to note is that the guys always tell me that right before a full moon is going to be the best time to target marlin, so keep that in mind. Now, staying offshore, you just talked about that King of the Beach tournament. Man, that's an awesome prize from Frontrunner. I would love to win that boat. And I'll be talking about kingfish a lot this summer because just like every year, they're pretty thick along the beaches and just offshore. Now, I spoke with our resident kingfish expert, Captain Rob Bennett from coastalfish.net. He tells me he's been on a great bite on some live bottom around the 9 Mile Reef area east of St. Augustine this week and last week. Now, the pogies have been a little hit or miss along the beach. They're kind of hit right now. They're along from Matanzas on up through Jacksonville. But if you can't find the bait on the beach, Rob said there's plenty of Spanish sardines and cigar minnows on those nearshore structures, and you can sabiki those guys up. Then just slow troll those baits. And, if you can't find any live bait at all, you can also use a diving plug. That's going to work. And I've got a photo here. Captain Rob Bennett sent me this picture of Mike Krigler with big old kingfish that they caught at 9 Mile Reef. I'd like to have that one. That might win the Frontrunner boat guy.
I was just going to say that would win.
That's a stud.
Yep.
That could be. So moving inshore, with the early high tide this weekend, it's going to be a great time to bust out the topwater plug and look for some of the redfish. My advice would be to stick closer to the inlets. Again, this week, there's some nice, really salty water, especially on that higher tide in those areas. The fish have been a little more active where that water is saltier and cleaner after all that rain we've had the last couple of weeks. Look for schools of mullet or the glass minnows that are getting busted. Toss your topwater around those areas. The bone-colored Berkeley Jaywalker 120, that's been working great for my clients this week. If you're around those inlets, you're probably going to run into some jacks or some Spanish mackerel busting. That smaller Jaywalker 100 is a great lure to toss to those guys. But I do have a redfish picture here. Travis Hames sent me this picture of his son Logan with a nice 34-inch redfish that he caught off a dock in the St. Johns River. Now, also inshore, guys, the flounder. You know, we've had a ton of rain, like I was talking about last couple of weeks, making that water kind of stirred up and murky, kind of nasty, but just about everywhere. But right at the inlets, it's pretty clean, and those flounder have started to stack up at the inlet. My favorite bait for those inlet flounder is going to be a good-sized finger mullet on a fish finder rig. Now, those mullet have been a little tough to find, but, you know, if you have a big mud minnow or even a big live shrimp, it's going to work as well. You can also bump a soft plastic like a Saltwater Assassin Elite Shiner right along the bottom. Use a heavier jig head like a 3/8 or a half-ounce jig head. The flounder are running about 2 to 5 pounds, but there's a few bigger ones mixed in there. And speaking of big flounder, I've got one last picture here. Our buddy Mallory Hendricks sent me this picture of a couple of nice flounder that she caught right near the St. Augustine Inlet. Her and Roy, they're always on the fish, always catching some nice flounder.
Nice, Mal.
Well, I tell you
Go
what,
girl.
Tommy, that's a fantastic report, and I'll take your strike zone hotspots for the Northeast region from here. Captain Tommy Derringer says that inshore, the flounder and redfish at the inlets are on the slack tides. Use finger mullet or shrimp on a fish finder rig, or like you said, that heavier jig head. And then offshore, kingfish on the nearshore reefs and wrecks throughout the entire region right now.
All right, well, it's time to get your grills fired up and grab your sparklers, fireworks, and of course your rod and reel for a weekend full of Independence Day fun. But you know what? Stay tuned so we can tell you what to expect next week on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We will be right back. Woohoo! It's Independence Day weekend. Okay, next week we are talking mangrove snapper. We heard a lot about those in the reports today, so it must be good, which means we must be talking about it. And you're going to be joining us.
I will be
again
back
next
filling in
week.
for Rick again.
That's good.
And
I'll be back filling in for me.
Everybody out, yeah, well, we could do that too, maybe.
Yeah.
Everybody out there, make sure you wish Brie a happy birthday because
happy
she is
birthday,
born on the
Brie.
4th of July.
And
So
also
you-
happy 4th of July.
and happy 4th of July.
And happy birthday to my son Spencer.
Thank
you've
you.
got a birthday come 3rd of July. A lot of birthdays
Yeah,
this
more
weekend. It's going to be a busy
birthdays.
weekend. And with that building moon, man, it's going to be fantastic fishing this weekend. Like Tommy was talking about this, and some of the other guys talking about, the building moon is creating bites all over the state right now, so it's going to be fantastic.
Yep, I'm going to try to get out Sunday, do a little sandbar Monday, maybe some other things on the birthday, big Tuesday, I don't know, turning 33, might take naps. That's what I want for my birthday. I just
I
want
like
a
naps.
nice long
I'm into that.
nap.
I'm going to feed my son.
I'm getting sold. Happy 4th of July. Stay safe out there. Go catch those big fish, and we'll see you next week. Bye. I'll be older.